morning. Can someone give me a thumbs up that you can hear me? My name is Chris Lennon. I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee here at First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church in Plymouth. My pronouns are he, him, his. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual service this morning. Today's service will be posted on our Facebook page as well as on YouTube. The recording will end before we begin our candles of joy and sorrow. Our service today will be led by Amy Palmer and Marie Lunt. If I may editorialize, two of the nicest people I know, and I'm grateful to call each of them my friend. We also welcome back Michael Wade as our musician. And very grateful to have him. We found out what a wonderful pianist he was last week. Amy, in her 16 years at First Parish Plymouth, has served on various committees, taught OWL, participated in talent shows, and hosted and attended more service auctions than she can count. Before becoming the health agent in Mansfield 4 years ago, Amy was the Bristol County Emergency Preparedness Planner and never thought the week-long pandemic planning class she took 8 years ago would be so important. Her favorite things to do are running while listening to podcasts, petting her dogs, talking about public health, and playing games with her family. Marie has been connected with First Parish Plymouth since 1991. She was a choir member from 1992 to 2011 before rejoining this past February. She is a career executive assistant. Her 40-year career has spanned through human services, publishing, consulting, and financial services. She currently works with a major Boston-based investment firm. She was also owner and cake designer at Sweet Art of Duxbury from 1995 to 2000. As many of us know, her cakes are to die for.
The call to worship is from Anne Lamott. Faith includes noticing the mess, the emptiness and discomfort, and letting it be there until some.
In the participant panel, she's near right under you.
Okay, so we're on to Michael now.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning, everyone. As I light the chalice, please join me in the words, the chalice lighting on your screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant. Dwell together in peace. Speak the truth in freedom. To speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning, everyone. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff out, and then when I read it yesterday to my husband, I sounded like a robot. So I'm going to try to go somewhere between robotic and conversational. So hopefully we can make this work. So just to start, I've been interested in pandemics for decades. I've read books, watched movies, documentaries, listened to podcasts about pandemics. I've always been fascinated by pandemics. My kids even got me the board game called Pandemic, which we play often. Just as a quick example of some books, this is one of my favorite. I don't know if you can tell, The Coming Plague. My sister gave it to me when I was in college. I asked for it. She said, I'll get it for you, but don't talk to me about any of it. So then also on my bookshelf, The Great Influenza, Secret Agents, The Menace of Emerging Infectious Diseases, Scourge, the once great and the once and future threat to smallpox, and anthrax, Deadly Investigation. So that kind of gives you a history on how I am when it comes to infectious disease. For about 10 years, I was the emergency preparedness planner for Bristol County. I worked with 24 cities and towns, and I prepared them for public health emergencies, such as something like a pandemic. I even took a 5-day course in Alabama on pandemic preparedness. So when the H1N1 pandemic hit in 2009 to 2010, I already had stockpiles in my basements, cash hidden in my house, knowledge of non-pharmaceutical interventions needed to be in place to stop the spread of a deadly virus. I was ready for a pandemic until now. So I've been the health agent in Mansfield for about 4 years. So when I was in my job interview, HR asked me if I knew what the retiring health agent did for work. I said I didn't, and we kind of laughed about it. Local public health is one of those jobs that one of those all-encompassing positions that people go to when they can't figure out who else is responsible. Every time I tell my mom what I did at work that day, whether it's working with hoarders to make sure they get the help that they need. One time I had to confirm a small meth lab explosion was cleaned up properly. Recently, I've been dealing with an issue on emergency beaver trapping permit to keep the drinking water supply safe. Sherry says, I never knew what local public health did. So me neither. I have a poster on my health department door that lists 150 things local public health manages, and it doesn't even include pandemic response. But trust me, I'm responsible for that too. So that brings us to how the pandemic has affected me personally, especially at work. I've definitely had anxieties about the uncertainty of the future, both in the health and economy for me and my entire family. Every time I see crowds of people wearing masks, I think, so we're really in the middle of a pandemic. I can't be thankful enough that both my kids are teenagers who can feed themselves, are independent learners, and don't require 24/7 personal contact with friends. And although my husband Joe did have to take a pay cut to save jobs in his very large worldwide company, we both agreed that that does not change our overall financial stability. A pay cut is better than a job loss. So when it comes to this specific pandemic, I remember back in January when my coworker asked me if I thought the coronavirus would come to the US. I said, for sure it will, but I thought it would be like SARS when there were outbreaks in specific areas, but they were squashed by careful planning and the swift and effective implementation of public health interventions. February brought some uncertainty as to how extensive it would get, but the first weekend in March was when everything really changed for me. I was in Vermont at my sister's house for the third time in the 4 weeks since she broke her leg skiing. I was lying in bed on the Sunday morning listening to BUR, and they were talking about the shutdowns in Italy. That's when I realized something had changed. I got up that morning and told my mom that she needs to stop going to church. She was a daily attender at Catholic Church in Sandwich. I said weekday mass is okay because there aren't a lot of people, but Sunday mass is too dangerous. My mom tends to wave off a lot of the advice I give her, but I think she knew something had changed too. There was no Sunday service the following week, so I didn't have to worry about the crowded pews. Work changed drastically. I was reading, listening, and speaking everything pandemic. People in Mansfield and other friends and family were looking to me for all the answers. I was helping make some major decisions in the town. When the superintendent turned to me and asked, "Amy, do you think we should close schools?" I said yes, because closing the school would stop the spread of disease. And she said, "Okay, we'll close the school." The governor shut down all the schools 2 days later, but that moment made a big impact for me. I was now the person who was assuring all town employees that we were doing our best and we had been planning for years. People seemed to feel better after I talked, and this was not something I was used to. I was used to being hidden in my office in the basement back corner at town hall, just looking for somebody to talk to me about public health, but nobody was really interested. So when it comes to the pandemic, it was really a different thing for me to have people come to me often and say, "Amy, what should I do? What's this? What's that?" But I knew back in March that there was not enough science to know if what the CDC and the DPH was saying was the right thing, or that I was saying the right thing, and I was not comfortable with that. So then moving forward, my job eventually turned from not just informational, but to also include enforcement. A local health agent enforces everything from food code to septic systems, plastic bag bans to body art, tobacco control, and so much more. The first order from the governor that fell to local public health was to make sure all non-essential businesses were closed. It was hard, and I felt horrible. I had people asking me to look the other way or else they may lose their livelihoods. I couldn't. If you let one car wash stay open, the running store will want to be open too. The governor set the line in the sand and local public health was in charge. Now, almost 5 months since that first order, I'm the enforcement agent for mask wearing, safe workplaces, recreational activities and retail locations, and gathering sizes, now public and private. I get about 3 calls a day from somebody or some organization not complying. People are scared, people are afraid, people are mad that others aren't following the rules, and I hear it all. And when I don't give them the answer they want, I've been sworn at, hung up on, and told a couple times that the caller would go to the higher ups. They don't understand there is no higher up. I'm it, local public health. A big part of the calls is to diffuse the situation and explain and educate people. And most times I think people feel better after they call than before they did. And that's when I feel good about what I do. Now my job involves constantly striving to keep up with all the state regulations and orders to know who is supposed to quarantine when, who should get a COVID test, how to get a COVID test, what businesses can be open, what are the safety standards for every business that can be open, including municipal government, what sports are allowed, when do athletes have to wear masks, which outside events are allowed, how far away do singers need to be from the crowd, and so much more. My mind is filled with a ridiculous amount of minor details, none of which I can always remember, and I'm still struggling to find the best way to navigate the state website. There have been plenty of times I've felt underappreciated during this pandemic. I am a one-person department with a part-time admin for a town of 24,000 people. Like I said, I'm solely in charge of at least 150 things and pandemic response. But public health has never been a glamorous job, and I don't know anybody who went into it for recognition or money. The constant variety and the importance of the role has kept me engaged and interested. What I've learned is that I could never do it without the constant support of the town Board of Health, coworkers, my friends, my family. The people who know how hard I work make me realize how appreciated I am. And with all my pandemic knowledge and interest, I'm glad to be a part of the solution. So if anybody ever, like I said with Chris when he introduced me, if anybody ever wants to talk about public health, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And it's so all-encompassing and just It's especially local public health. So if anybody does have anything that they want to know about on this, please let me know. I'm way in the middle of all of it, and I'm here to help all of you, and not just the town that I work for. So, so thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my piece today for the musical reflection is called Träumerei, and it's by the great German romantic composer Robert Schumann. Schumann was a very prolific composer, and his music ranged from a wide variety of styles. Some of his music was very fiery and bombastic, very, very lush and romantic, like you would expect from the time period. But he also wrote some of the most beautiful and delicate piano music ever in the repertoire. And this piece falls into that latter category. Träumerei means dreaming, and it comes from a large set of pieces called Kinderscenen, which means scenes from childhood. It's very different than a lot of Schumann's other piano music in that it's very contemplative, simple, but very melodic driven and very beautifully harmonically. The reason why I chose this piece is, well, Schumann lived a very hard life. He died very early at the age of 46, and he unfortunately was tormented by debilitating mental illness, so much that he experienced multiple personalities, seeing illusions, and going clinically insane, unfortunately, towards the end of his life. And I feel like in our life right now, it can sort of feel like that with the way things go. And all the things that are coming sort of at us, we can sort of feel a little crazy sometimes. I know that for me, from day to day, from hour to hour, my anxiety can go through the roof and then sort of dissipate only to come back again. And it's a little maddening sometimes. So this piece I chose because I hope that I can share with you some beauty in the solace that Schumann cultivated through his music, through this piece specifically, and I hope that it'll bring you some respite, especially if you're finding any sort of anxiety in your own life. So this is Träumerei.
Thank you, Michael. Can everybody hear me? Oh, okay. I wanted to thank Michael for that beautiful piece. It's one of my favorites and it's making me cry. But thank you so, so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marie Lunt. As you heard from Chris's introduction, I'm a career admin with decades of experience under my belt. My first admin job was in 1974. My office equipment was a manual typewriter, a 3-ring binder database, 2 Rolodexes, and a copy machine that covered you in toxic dust. To access the cloud in those days, you had to use a plane. Wow, where to begin my 2020 story? To quote John Lennon in his song, Beautiful Boy, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. For me and countless others, 2020 has been a plan buster. On a positive note, I continue to be blessed with good health for my family and myself. I am gainfully employed, knock wood. I add this bit of superstition a lot these days, as each day that passes brings uncertainty. Despite assurances from my employer of 13 years, a well-known Boston investment firm. You see, this February, just before the pandemic hit, I was strongly encouraged to leave the position of senior executive assistant that I had held for the past 3 years to become a sort of hybrid floater. Now, in my world, a traditional floater is generally an admin hired on a temporary basis to support portfolio managers and analysts. If the floater does well, he or she is offered a permanent desk. If not, it's thanks for playing. So that's where I am. I've lost my place, excuse me. A lot of things went through my head when this happened, including channeling Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone, deadpanning, "I'll make her an offer she won't refuse." I also flashed back to my family and me struggling as we did between 2009 and 2011 when I was first laid off. The reason for my current reassignment has never been, nor will it likely ever be made clear to me, despite lots of questions and requests for clear feedback. Company policy states that most of us are at-will employees. This means that they can reassign you or show you the door for no reason. On the bright side, I'm still there. I'm knocking wood like crazy, and at 65 years old, trying to stay current in a world of easy obsolescence. My last day in my previous job as senior executive assistant was March 5th. By Monday, March 15th, we were all working from home due to COVID-19. I am currently entering my 6th month as a work from home employee and continue to work as a floater. From March 6th to the third week in May, I worked on special projects. I am blessed with 2 wonderful supervisors who have my back as much as they can possibly have it. It's a long story why I have 2 supervisors, but it's due to my unusual situation, and it's indeed a blessing. They kept me busy with a series of projects, from the exciting to the comfortingly tedious. Since May 26th, I have been assigned as a helper to a micromanaging, humorless, difficult peer admin in a very demanding group of virtual strangers in a virtual atmosphere. It has been nerve-wracking and a test of my skills and confidence, but it also offers a bit more job security, as a second admin is definitely needed in this group. It has also been a trial by fire, showing me exactly what I'm made of. I have tried to control my attitude and emotions, and it has been a test of my coping skills to survive this very challenging chapter in my career. I feel a bit like a gambler in a poker game that I've been forced to join with a mediocre hand to boot. I do my best to play the cards I've been dealt. The first few weeks of my assignment were rocky, with a steep learning curve, a cyberspace filled with strangers, and a peer who constantly instant messaged me with critiques, insisted on daily phone calls, expressed disappointment with all of my questions, some of which I needed to ask more than once. It has been 3 years since I had worked an investment desk after supporting senior management. There were a lot of rusty areas. I had never worked with any of these people, knew none except the department head, who I knew only socially through company-sponsored occasions. My peer is a person I barely know. My impression had always been a prickly person who put you off center with petty remarks and biting observations. It wasn't too far from the mark. So I had always avoided her. Now I was playing in her yard and I was miserable. So I knew I had to do something. After seeking advice from one of my supervisors, and with all the kindness and compassion I could muster, I confronted her directly, concentrating on the business aspect, emphasizing that my objective was to provide quality support to the team. I was clear about what I needed to help achieve that. I suggested ways to communicate that would work better for me. She listened and felt comfortable enough to open up about how she was feeling. I learned that she lives with and cares for elderly parents and an elderly aunt. Her father is living in a nursing home after a stroke and has contracted COVID-19. Her aunt just suffered a massive stroke and is hospitalized. Her mother has cognitive issues. They are Haitian immigrants struggling with racism and the elders with a language barrier. My peer previously trained and worked as a medical professional. She had to give up her career due to health issues. Now that I know a little bit about her and vice versa, things are better. I'm forging my own path with the analysts, working to build relationships and working hard to win their trust as the unknown entity. I recently worked a week solo covering for my peer's vacation. I received kudos from the analysts and a praise from my peer. It was a great confidence booster to know that now I can now handle this desk on my own if necessary. So here's my typical work from home day. My day begins between 4 and 5 a.m., which is also my pre-COVID wake-up time. I have PT exercises to do first thing that take about 20 to 30 minutes. Instead of having to take a 5:30 or 6:20 a.m. train to Boston, I spend my first few hours puttering around the kitchen while listening to news programs I taped the night before. I also read articles in the Washington Post, New York Times, Boston Globe, and the daily blog Letter from an American by Heather Cox Richardson. I suggest that you Google her and read her every day. Morning coffee prepared in a vintage Corning-Wick stovetop percolator fills the kitchen with its delightful aroma. That steaming hot first sip is a highlight of my day. If Peter is up before I sign on at 8 a.m., we enjoy our morning conversation over coffee, sometimes on the back deck, often in our family room kitchen. It's great to be married to my best friend. As 8 a.m. approaches, showered and dressed, it's time to sit down at the computer and start my workday. My wardrobe generally consists of stuff I normally would have changed into at the end of the workday. I dress up in a cardigan. As you can see, this is one of my dress-up cardigans, or blouse with jewelry and a dab of lipstick, only if I'm going to be attending a video conference. Peter fixes me a power breakfast of hot oatmeal with sliced banana and cinnamon about 9 a.m. I can't eat first thing in the morning. Around the same time, we bring Sandor, our son's cat, downstairs to be with us. He's a rescued indoor cat with issues, who we're trying to introduce to the other cats. So far, no good. He stays in my office with me, closed off to the rest of the downstairs by French doors. He is my assistant and quiet company. He seems to know when I need some love, as he will come and lay at my feet or sit next to me instead of curling up in a more comfortable chair. 8 a.m. is filling me with less apprehension than it did in May. It now feels more like anticipation. If my hands shake, it's only for a very short time. I follow the spirit of the breathing routine that Paul Melville taught us at a recent service to help alleviate the fight or flight anxiety I had been feeling. After email triage, I take the time to read my action emails slowly, deliberately, and twice to prevent mistakes caused by rushing. I am a tactile visual person, so I print out a lot of stuff to refer to quickly and make notes. I still have to fight the feeling that a bear is chasing me. Things are better. I have trained the bear to sit in the clearing. A couple of times the bear has fallen asleep from boredom. Some days the bear doesn't show up. Suffice to say, my job supporting analysts in the environmental, social, and governance group is a demanding one. I set up complicated, detailed meetings, sometimes at the last minute. I have made my share of mistakes, but I have learned from every single one of them, so they happen less frequently now. I have a halo of Post-it notes around my monitors with instructions for procedural order, answers to my frequently asked questions, so I don't have to ask twice or again and again. I also talk myself through the mechanics of the tasks, asking myself questions, gently coaching myself to think, relax, and put myself in the shoes of the person who will be doing the meeting. I break the tasks into small bits. I make notes. I double check. This is where my deep well of experience comes in handy. I also take breaks and most days take my full lunch hour. Overtime is not rare, but it is manageable and it pays well, so I don't mind. My brain is exhausted by the end of the day. Peter handles all the meal prep, so dinner is ready when I sign off. We often enjoy a cocktail before dinner. Sometimes a friend or two will join us on the patio next to the flower and vegetable gardens. After dinner, if I'm not asleep in my recliner, I do the dishes and clean up the kitchen. I'm generally in bed by 9. I'm an introvert by nature who is perfectly content with the pleasure of my own company. Peter gives me the space I need and the support I crave, especially needed during this time. He is my best friend, coach, cheerleader, life partner, and cheerer-upper. If COVID-19 has shown me anything, it is that I am and always have been a survivor. What will come next in my life and for my family is not fully known. We can only control our reactions and try to make good decisions. My plan for many years was to work at this firm until age 70 at least. I'm rethinking that, and the firm may also have different plans for me. One thing I do know is I cannot let my fears overtake me. I have to play this hand I'm dealt with, or I can use my power to forge a completely new hand. Even in these tough times, I have options. Thank you for listening. I wish each and every one of you continued good health if you are well, healing if you are sick, and love and understanding if you are struggling. Please join us in singing our closing hymn, number 205, Amazing Grace. We will sing verses 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Though many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come, 'tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
Hi, I'm Randy Newman, and I've been asked by KPCC to say some words about social distancing because of my scientific background, because apparently there's some disease that's going around. Stay 6 feet away from people, wash your hands religiously and often, and don't touch your face. And so I was asked to do this. I wrote a song instead, actually, so I'll go play it for you. Venus in sweatpants, that's who you are. And when this mess is over, I'll buy stupid friends will be left behind. Stay away from me. Yeah, but keep your distance, please. Stay away from me. Words of love in times like these. I'm gonna be with you 24 hours a day. A lot of people couldn't stand that, but you can. You'll be with me 24 hours a day. What a lucky man I am. Stay away from me. Wash your hands, but don't touch your face. How you like that? Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I saw you. 30 years together, we're still having fun. Once we were two, now we are one. Let's go out and get a burger. You know, when you're done, you're done. Memories of the past. Be kind to one another. Tell her you love her every day. If you're angry about something, let it go. If the kids are frightened, tell them not to be afraid. But don't let them touch your face. Don't let them touch your face. All right. Thank you very much. I wish everyone well, and I wish myself well to some extent. And stay safe. It's hard for Americans to don't like being told what to do at all. But in this case, you know, let's do it. Yeah? We'll be all right. Okay, all my love to everybody. Bye. Hi, I'm Randy Newman, and I've been asked by
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace.